Hello, tune in listeners and hello, tune in viewers. You are listening to Tune In. It is radio and, in this case, also video for your mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Keela Parkinson, and we are speaking, as we do every week, all about mindfulness and all the different ways that it shows up. And I am very excited to welcome back to the show someone who has been a guest a couple of times, but not for a while. And so to hear all the good things that he is continuing to evolve and do. Please help me welcome back Dr. Jeff Mims. Hi, Dr. Jeff.
How's it going, Coach Kiki? So good to be with you again.
Oh my gosh, it's so good to be here talking with you, even though we're in different spots, because excuse me, you are in Oklahoma City. And
Yes.
tell us about what you are doing now in OKC and what you've done in the past. We know a little bit about. We had you on the show to talk about being in the pocket, which is that flow state, particularly for musicians, right? And it was such a good
Yes.
conversation. It got very deep, which I love. And how have you evolved that? What are you up to these days?
Oh, great question. Thanks again for having me, Coach Kiki. It's really a delight, a joy. I'm really excited just to talk with you more. And since we've last spoken, yeah, things have grown quite a bit. And it's funny that you begin with the pocket, right? Which is honestly, I want to say that that's the foundation really for all the work that we get to do. And even in this idea of being in the pocket, that is kind of what our job is now, is to help others access this really
Oh,
desired state of consciousness and well-being. And so you set it up perfectly. So that's exactly what we do. We have expanded our program. We have a coaching program, an expressive arts coaching program here in
oh.
MEACO. And we travel the state. We're in 22 counties, delivering expressive arts coaching services to some really vulnerable youth here in the state of Oklahoma. So located in downtown Oklahoma City, but we are statewide for sure.
Okay, now what I did not set up perfectly was your bio, right? For listeners who might not have caught your other shows, which by the way, check out the podcast version of the show and go there and listen to the first conversation. With the first conversation one-on-one with Dr. Jeff, although he was also prior to that also on a panel discussion. But tell us also who you are, what you do, and what Miyako is, because it's so, so cool.
Awesome, awesome. So I'm Dr. Jeff Mims. I'm a humanistic psychologist. I am a creativity expert, and I am also a professional musician. So I grew up here in Oklahoma. I come from a family of professional musicians. My dad and mom both play, and my grandparents both sides played musical instruments. So I really get it from all angles, right? Growing up in music, and I've been able to do some really cool things earlier on in my career in college. Oklahoma Jazz Hall of Fame, and we did an album. We had a jazz quartet who went to the Grammys, and we've done some really awesome stuff. So I've actually lived, and I'm still a musician, right? Even when I introduce myself now, even with the work that I do is in
Yeah.
mindfulness. It's still very much a part of who I am. It's a part of my identity. It's the way that my brain works. It's the way that I reset and recharge and recalibrate when things get tough. And so I'm also the founder of the Music and Expressive Arts Center of Oklahoma,
Hmm.
which is MEACO. And we organically formed out of this desire to connect with our community here in the state of Oklahoma. Right. And so my mentor at the time was like, hey, if you can't find the organization that you're looking for like tutelage and mentorship, then maybe that's the prompt to create, the community. And so we really started out of a necessity to really just connect and build community. And it has
Hmm.
grown tremendously. And so Miyako now is, probably one of the foremost or out front leaders in the space of helping individuals understand how you can access creativity, how you can use music and art with intention to invite these desired mental health, mindfulness states. And so we're a training organization. And so that's what we do. We do seminars, workshops, retreats, conferences, and we also have coaching services that are part of our offerings as well.
Oh my gosh. So it sounds so exciting. Also, just your two titles that you shared with us, right? Humanistic psychologist and creativity
Yes.
expert. I'm like, I get excited just hearing That first of all, anybody can have
Yes.
those titles. Second of all, that it's you. We get to talk, right? Like, I just love it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah, because again, back to the idea, this thing of identity and me being a musician,
Yeah.
I know what works for me. I know what connects. I know what resonates with me. And then also, being in Oklahoma and going through when I was in working on my master's, I thought I wanted to pursue clinical psychotherapy, as a therapist. And so I did all the training and chose that path. But I knew that there had to be more, like in terms of like what I wanted to do, what I wanted to research. I wanted to explore the connection between music, and I didn't see a lot of it in my earlier training. And so it's like, okay, so if it doesn't exist or if it's not out there, how do I connect myself with it, over time? And so that's what connected me to doing a PhD and
Mhm.
doing research in the space of psychology and introducing new findings per our being in the pocket study, the
Yes.
phenomenological qualitative study that we did with Saybrook University, to then now introducing these new findings of like, okay, this is what's going on with people with
Mhm.
music. And then so now taking all of that as a foundation for MEACO, we get to actually share that information. And it's great.
Yeah. It's so, and it's also so fascinating because when you hear logical and qualitative, you're like, well, that can't happen with creativity. And you're like, yes, it can, right?
Absolutely.
Can you,
Absolutely it
yeah,
can.
at all give us like a banner headline of what you found, right? And then people can deep dive further into our previous conversation.
Now you're getting me excited. Yes.
Love it.
So some of the things that stood out from the study was that being in the pocket is a dynamic state in a musician's consciousness,
Mm,
right? And so the way that I can explain it for people who maybe are not musicians, it's this moment where like you feel like and this is what's described in the data. Some participants say, "Hey, listen, it's like I was going up and up and up before I knew it. I was literally
yeah.
flying like a bird."
Oh, so
Right? So
cool.
now what does that mean? What's the qualitative
Mhm.
meaning there? Excuse me.
Yeah.
And basically what it's saying that is that it's beyond words, right? It's something
Mhm.
that's felt. It's a felt sense of an experience. But here's the kicker: there's also a subjective quality to that because there are other people, even people who are not musicians, can relate to that. It's like, you know what? That
Yeah.
up like a bird kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I've felt that as well too. And then, there are moments that happen, like, let's just say, like, there's a dynamic. You're at a concert, there's a moment the guitar player steps out and takes the famous solo, and everybody is just look around and everybody's just really into it. That would represent a moment, that distinct moment in consciousness.
Mhm.
That's a pocket experience moment. Right, so it's just a heightened level of performance, right?
Yeah.
Also, directly connected to flow, like that flow state, right? But there are differences. But so yeah, so also we found that there is this deepening connection with a stranger between the audience member and the professional on stage.
Mhm.
Like there's a moment of being connected to a stranger through music. So being in the pocket brings bonding and human connection as well. One of my favorites is there was a resolve of two contrasting states of consciousness, two contrasting feelings, emotions happening simultaneously. And it was described as calm, but fire in the belly energy,
Oh,
fire in the
yeah.
belly, like in the core air energy. And then that just equals bliss. When you mix it all together, it just represents bliss. Now, keep in mind, these are participants. This is in the data, right? So they're
Mhm.
they're talking about these deeply felt moments that are not where language doesn't really give proper context.
Yeah.
It's more felt in the body. So
Mhm.
it's like it's an extreme. It's called transcendental phenomenology. Like it goes beyond. It transcends an ordinary
Yeah.
lived experience. So it goes beyond that. So it's good, but beyond good into like bliss.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that showed up in the data as well. And these are some things that we knew, right?
Okay.
A spiritual experience. people actually refer to the pocket as like a humbling experience, almost like one who would prostrate themselves before the divine, right?
Yeah.
So
Ooh.
it's like music gives that like sort of like, hey, this is not me. It's almost, yeah, like, like a God moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And that also showed up in the data as well. So yeah, so little things like that aren't little things are actually really deep
Hmm.
concepts and ideas that we can use, information rather that we can use going forward to help others access this state of consciousness. And here's the other thing too about flow and its connection to flow. And Csikszentmihalyi mentions this in his
Oh,
flow
yeah.
research, the founder of flow psychology.
Yeah.
He said that flow actually equals, not in this exact word,
Okay.
but basically
You're not
equals
quoting him directly.
happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Equals what? Sorry.
the happiness.
Happiness. Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that
Right.
moment, yeah, the moment of performance where you're absorbed and immersed in that task, and you're in that state of flow, that is a happiness state. And for humanistic psychology, that's almost always the goal. Like we want to help
Mhm.
people be well, be happy,
Mm.
and so yeah, to the root of positive psychology, that's
Yeah.
that's kind of how it all connects.
Yeah, so cool. And I love music is such an important part of bridging connections, right? Whether it's connections with ourselves, with
Sure.
others, even if they're strangers, with the divine, with learning, right? I think about like the ABCs are a song, right? Like that kind of says it all, doesn't it? Right?
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
so cool.
Yeah, Dr. Anita Collins does a lot about, I think it's building, she has an organization called Building Beautiful Brains or something,
Mm,
I
sounds very
believe.
cool.
But she uses music, and
Okay.
she's definitely out front, as a leader in our field as well.
That's very cool. So you are gathering these. Also, I'm writing down all the words. I'm a word nerd, and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I know that there's a note taking happening here with AI, but I'm going to write it down and get into my own flow and write down these words that I find so compelling. I remember last time we talked about the word ineffable, right? You're saying like these words that cannot be described for the things that are happening, right? And I believe I think I recall that we talked about that word because it hit me again. I want to ask you a question about these experts you're gathering to come to the MEACO Wellness Conference, which I believe is an
Yes.
inaugural event. But before I even get to that question, Dr. Duff, I want to talk to you about this thing that happened in your body that I noticed when you were talking about, the guitarist stepping out for that solo. And you did this fingering, like you were just like, I don't know what it was because I don't play guitar, but you did something. You stepped out and you did something. And I want to just ask, did you have a moment where you were like imagining that and having it drawing from an old experience?
Beautiful question. I really appreciate that question. And that's a very important observation. Um, and I'll tell you why if you'll remind me in a second.
Okay,
But
good.
okay, I'm going
I
to
will.
answer the question,
Good.
but remind me why I,
Perfect.
I said it's a beautiful question. So yeah, sure, it's the way my brain works, right? And so I welcome, I'm in a space now finally where I welcome all of the little quirks and things that
Mhm.
come up because they
Yeah.
are very much a part of my being. Again, it really is the way my brain works. So in thinking about that, sure, I relive many moments that I've had on stage. I think of other artists. I think like, yeah, it's certainly in real time. Those things are absolutely happening,
Hmm.
and I just invited right in.
Yeah.
Anytime, anywhere. I may grab an air guitar and
Yeah.
just go.
I love it.
Um, Part of it is muscle memory. Sometimes I
Yeah.
may not even be conscious of it, which also there's meaning in that as well too. The
Hmm.
subconscious,
Hmm.
the connection between the subconscious and conscious, play on that. So these things that show up, it's really fascinating. So yeah, I'm happy to be in the moment as much as possible, and share that and show that.
And I'll tell you what I received, right? You stepped out and that's what I saw. I saw you like stepping out and I just saw like dark background and like you coming into spotlight and just that moment,
Yep,
right? And I was like, oh, he's playing something for real right there. Like
yep,
it just kind of transmitted to me, right? And I think
yep.
when I say that, some people are like, what the heck? And other people, I think many, many listeners and viewers are like, oh yeah, I know that moment when you're just sort of you're
Yes.
connected with somebody in that moment, right? And you're
Yep.
seeing it, you're getting it, and
Yep.
whether it's a thing they've already experienced or something you can imagine them doing, right? There's that sort of
Yeah.
timelessness of that connected moment. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
you're like
that's
I love it.
no, that is so cool. So,
Mhm.
so remember, I said
Yeah,
I'm
beautiful
glad you
question.
asked that question. Yeah, because think about this. Think about what it says for now when
Hmm.
we do our work, and we've got a kiddo who I'm kind of hanging out with, and he grabs an air guitar and he's in this space and he's really in the moment. Like, what
Yeah.
does that say? Well, one, it tells me that okay, we found something. Maybe we've got something that you know lights up this kid's eyes a little bit,
Hmm.
brings a little bit of joy, brings a moment of even like, and there's a lot of thought about, the imagination and creativity and the psychological meanings that it can bring as well. So it's really nice to observe things like that, even in kids who maybe not, aware of it, even adults, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's the same. So there's the physiological response, the head bobbing and the authentic
Yeah.
body movement where the music is on and you want to dance. All of those things have meaning. All of
Hmm.
those things have meaning and are a great place to start when we're trying to unpack, hard questions or questions of identity or feelings or stuck emotions. It's a great place to start.
Oh, I love that. And it's also so connecting. For those of us who like to dance, right? Dancing, of course, is its own art form. I'm not by no means a professional dancer or choreographer, but I love to dance. And at some point in my adolescence, I was like, maybe that's a path, right? And for me, dancing is contagious. Somebody else is moving and I'm like, oh, and I start doing what they're doing, right? And it's just the same thing. And that's so in flow. So this is so fun. We've barely scratched the surface because we're getting ready to talk about what this wellness conference is. I just quickly want to jump in and say, listeners and viewers, you are listening to Tune In. It's radio for your mind, body, and soul on WVLP 103.1 FM. You may not have, if you're watching the video, then you haven't found the radio station, but go to WVLP.org and check it out. Grassroots community radio, always a great thing to support. We're talking today with Dr. Jeff Mims of the MEACO Center, and that stands for Music, Exploration, and Arts. Nope, I'm so
Music
terrible
and
with it. Thank you.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Music and Expressive Arts Center of
Expressive.
Oklahoma.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Music and Expressive Arts, right? Because that's what it is. Music and Expressive Arts Center of Oklahoma. Here I go, closing my eyes to picture it. There we go. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe
There you
I'll get
go.
it
There
right
you
now. And they are creating the first of all, you're the founder of this program. I love it. It's
go.
so wonderful. I love that you listened to your mentor and took that leap of faith, right? Because a lot of times when we're seeking out resources and somebody says, well, just invent it, you're like, no, I want to be taught this. I don't want to be the one doing the
Sure.
work, right? But
Sure.
you did it. You stepped out on that leap of faith, and
Yeah.
and now the conference is coming up. And so what is the wellness? Why is wellness attached to the Music and Expressive Arts Center, right? Why is wellness attached to that? And what's going to happen at the conference?
Yeah, so great. So let's start with the name, Music and Expressive Arts Center of Oklahoma. So music, I'm a musician. My research is in music. My dissertation, what we introduced to the field of psychology, is heavily rooted in music, right?
Mhm.
But also the expressive arts, and a lot of people miss this. The expressive arts piece is rooted in the person-centered tradition, according to Doctors Carl and Natalie Rogers. Dr. Carl Rogers, along with Abraham Maslow, they created humanistic psychology
Mhm.
because they felt that individuals were much more unique than just the behaviors that they display. Like it has to be more going on with people, and I believe that they were right, right? I really believe that. Now, expressive arts, person-centered expressive arts, was created by Dr. Natalie Rogers, right? And these names will be important because I'm going
Okay.
to talk about that, like the founders of expressive arts, but then also lean into the work that we do, and then now doing the MEACO Wellness Conference. So the MEACO Wellness Conference is a retreat style conference that is leading with the data and science first, right? And we are inviting everyone to start with like an introduction to what is person-centered expressive arts. We
Mm.
start there, and from there, we are helping licensed therapists get CEUs and learn about alternative ways to help others. Because the tragedy really in a lot of talk therapy as it is now is that there are moments that get missed. We see kids get disciplined for drumming on the table,
Yeah.
right? That's a
Yeah.
that's a no-no. You don't do that. We believe that should be explored, right? Like, and there's a true story about a kid who I know is a gifted drummer who was
Mm.
almost reprimanded for tapping on the tables, and he's actually a child prodigy, like drummer.
So cool. Yeah.
So there is all of that. But the conference, the MEACO Wellness Conference, we will be joined by top leaders in the field. Dr. AZA is a board certified psychiatrist from Yale. He also has an MD from Harvard. He's got credentials from MIT as well. He's a jazz musician, um, jazz trained musician. He's working on a therapeutic with Yale right now, for the aging population.
Mm.
He's really really doing some amazing stuff. So he's gonna open our conference and really set the tone for music and mindfulness. Dr. Terry Goslin Jones is going to be doing two experiential expressive arts sessions, and she was actually trained by Natalie Rogers. So she's
Cool.
who created person centered, right? The daughter of Dr. Carl Rogers, who
Amazing. Yeah.
invented humanistic psychology, one of the most famous psychologists in American history. Um, and so we're joined. That's just two, but we've
That's
got
just
Dr.
you.
Christine Brooks, we've got Dr. Heschmidt from the University of Illinois, we've got Lindsay Sherwin joining us from New York City, who's our MEACO Director of Wellness. I'll be presenting as well, on person centered through music and experiential deepening, and we've got Dr. Piper Hart, who's going to be talking about creativity and neuro inclusive
Mm.
approach, and how we look at individuals who are neurodiverse. We've got Gregory Jerome joining us, who we talking about fashion psychology and how you show up in the power of presence. It's going to be amazing. It's really going to be an awesome experience. We've got live music. We've got Elijah Rock doing an actual performance and joining me on the couch for a fireside chat after the performance. Um, we've got food. We've got,
That's great.
we've
Yeah.
got some cool things happening. And then we also have vendors who are supporting our program. Oklahoma Complete Health is one who is really out front, really supporting this conference. It's gonna be a joy. So we are gonna have a good time. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and you have a beautiful venue too, because of course, as artists who are ex in expressive art, you've thought of like all the sensory components, right? And so it's also a lovely setting downtown. Yeah.
Sure, sure. It's beautiful environment, welcoming environment, because we're trying to foster more creativity, right?
Yeah.
So we want to definitely set the tone with the environment that's welcoming and inviting in that way. And so, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's so impressive to me. I mean, the whole concept because it has been so well thought, but I feel like you talked about the lineage that you have, right? And like being so immersed. I think to me it's fascinating that there's this immersion of the artistic expression and also the intellectual study, right? There's a discipline there. I just came back from a writers conference myself, right? And it was interesting to see like kind of the spectrum of how at one point there was a panel and we could see like somebody who was very much like I capture ideas, I'm the poet of the group and I'm very much in like my because there was the panel was on like, how do you organize your writing day? How do you move the needle forward on what you're if you're, creating a chapbook or if you're, publishing a novel, like how do you get that the nuts and bolts part, right? The crafting kind of panel, right? Discussion. And we had, the sort of the very much like what would be kind of termed like disorganized writing, where it's capture, 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 and then put it together later, right? And then all the way down to the, it was funny to me because they really were lined up in a spectrum, which was not intentional, but I could look at it from left to right and see that, right? And on the
Yeah,
other end was somebody, and in between were like a few people kind of somewhere in the middle. And on the other end was somebody who was so organized. Everything was project based. I don't do any writing that isn't for a project, I consider that a prompt to get into my real stuff if it starts to hit me kind of thing. And like, but they all were producing the same level and amount of this great stuff, right? And so to me, I think I'm probably closer to the first end of the spectrum a lot of times, right? Or maybe somewhere in the middle, but I'm closer to that end. And so I found it so inspiring, and I continue to find your work so inspiring to have this level of creativity, this level of connection to the divine, right? That still can be filtered through a discipline. I just find that
100%.
fascinating. Thank you for doing
Yeah.
it.
So you talk about writing. One of the very first seminars when in my doctoral program that I attended was creative writing. What is it? Creativity in academic writing,
Mm, cool.
and it was Steve Pritzker, and Dr. Goslin Jones and Stanley Krippner was there as well. And this was the moment, a moment of knowing. It was like, because again, I know myself to a degree, right? I know that I'm creative. I know that I like art, music. I know, I want to do like those things are fun to me. Those things give me life, like
Yeah.
honestly,
Mm.
right? So it's like, okay, now doing a doctorate, I know that I've got to write and write and write. Is there a way to bring that in? And so this seminar was really, it was a way of knowing for me. It's like, no way. You mean there is a way that I can bring my creativity into academic writing?
Yeah.
And so yeah, and so it really just kind of, again, just another moment of like knowing, like, yeah, I'm on the right path. This is
Yeah.
cool. And so again, having moments like that though too helps me to help others have moments like that, right? So
Hmm. Oh my
it's
gosh,
it's
that's so
really
cool.
really fascinating, yeah.
Yeah. And be able to recognize it. I love that also. Listeners, I'm going to remind you again that you are listening to, or maybe you're catching us on video. Tune in. It is Radio for Your Mind, Body, and Soul. I am your host, Keela Parkinson, and we are talking about mindfulness like we do every week. And we broadcast first on the airwaves at WVLP 103.1 FM. We stream live around the world at WVLP.org. And if you are interested in supporting grassroots radio, you can go to WVLP.org/support to show you care and to promote shows like this and by extension, the work of Dr. Jeff Mims, right? And I'm sure there are also ways to support MEACO, and we'll talk about that in a second as well. I have the little blurb also. Our show is underwritten in part by Kiki Productions Inc., Communications Coaching, and the title, My Moody Daybook, A Season of Mood Tools for People with Feelings. So, the book is a daily devotional that covers topics on all your human feelings, and it takes the hot topic of emotional intelligence to the next level of personal application. You can search My Moody Daybook, one word, to find it on Amazon, at Barnes& and Noble, in ebook format, and paper, which if you like that, like I do, you're going to want that sensory experience and discover your own relationship with your human feelings. And then you can also find more about communications coaching. The Key Productions Inc. philosophy is when you are confident, focused, and authentic with your message, you are a magnet to those you wish to attract. Go to coachkiki.com or search the school platform for the Confident Communicators Club. And we are speaking to a confident communicator right here. And I have to ask you, since we're talking about that, have there ever been times where you're having performance anxiety on stage, in front of the classroom? And what are your hacks? I mean, because we've never talked about this part, right? Like, I'm going to put you on the spot and get a little personal with it.
Yes, this
Because
is
I'm going
so
to segue to
good.
something else. Yeah.
So this actually showed up in our research on being in the pocket, right?
Okay.
There's this moment of anxiety as you're approaching the stage, right? And it's like, think of someone walking at the edge of the diving board, right? And you're edging, and so, but this is with music, and so it's something that's present. In fact, it's something that is, a part of the experience, right? It's connected to that moment of being in the pocket. It's like this build up, and then like, we're in the moment, you
Yeah.
know? So me personally, how I approach it is that's also a rubric to let me know that like, yeah, I'm still connected to something that I love. Because if
Hmm.
you don't care, there's no feeling, there's no
Agreed.
nervousness. Like, who cares? I'm not,
And you're
but
probably not that good at
but
it anymore. Yeah.
you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but because we do care, right? There is that feeling of anxiety and a little bit of nervousness. And it's like, I want it to be right. I want it to be right. And so, how I approach it is, and I learned this is actually affirmed again by someone else. They talk about a letting go. So, getting your space to the point where you can let go and trust, right? Trust that your hands are going to go in the right spot,
Yeah.
or trust your training, trust the work that you've put in to get you to that moment, right? And so it's muscle memory. And then it's also you trust yourself so you can let go enough to really just be along for the ride of the experience, the moment.
That's so cool.
So that's how I approach it. Even there are moments that, like, for example, when I defended my dissertation, I
Yeah.
did the whole hour and 15 minutes, I believe it was. And when it was over, I couldn't remember a thing that I said.
Yes. A lot of people have this experience, right? Now, this
Mhm.
could be from a stage fright that is like so intense that we're almost in blackout mode, right? Or
Yes.
Okay, was that
Yes.
your experience? Yeah. Because that's a
Yes.
that's a big one. There's a lot of pressure riding on
And so
defending that
Since
dissertation.
MEI talks about this in flow
Yeah.
psychology, where there's this play in time consciousness, this loss of time being absorbed, where we don't know if it was 15 minutes or 2 hours, also showed
Mm,
up in our study where they're talking about a saxophonist who's playing and he was playing and just crying, and everybody is
mm.
absorbed and time just flew by. It was like 2 hours of this
Wow.
moment that lasted, with music. So yeah, that certainly is a part of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, the loss in time awareness.
Yes. Uh-huh. That's so interesting. So now you work with kid groups, but you teach. So tell us more about that. And we're gonna, we'll tie this into what's gonna happen with this at the conference, but let's talk about the
Yeah.
center and the work you do there. Thank you.
Yeah, so we work with everybody in
Mm.
short, but we do have specific contracts that allow us to do work with different populations, and one of these populations is a vulnerable youth
Mhm.
population. And so, yeah, we always believe that we kind of go where the energy flows because we are a training organization and not an outpatient mental health clinic. And
Mm,
so
mhm.
we believe in education and advocacy. We believe that people just need to know more. And so that's why we approach it with seminars. We work in small groups. We do pilots. We do it all like in the space of education and advocacy because we believe that, starting with the data, that's how you really get things moving, right? And then also when we partner, it's project to project because
Mhm.
again, I was instructed that that's the way you get things done. It's project and then another project and you just do that forever.
Love it. Love it. And so some of your vendors then are some of your kind of collaborative project partners, right? Do you want to tell us any more about that?
Yeah, sure. So, yes, so some of our vendors are collaborative project partners. Absolutely, you're right on it. Of course, they have supported this conference, but we've also partnered in other ways. One of them is Unity Forward Oklahoma,
Mm,
who we've done a neurodivergent jam session with adults. So, adults with autism who have intellectual disabilities, maybe have some challenges. We formulate a jam session. We bring in instruments and professional musicians as coaches and we jam.
mm,
And we don't have a lot of barriers and rules. You don't have to be a professional musician. You can really just play your song. You can perform. And we've got videos of this like on our LinkedIn of like these beautiful melodies, these beautiful arrangements of musical melodies created by participants in this program. And it's just wonderful. Like the value in the work that we do are those moments like that where you have someone who maybe no one listened to before, right?
yeah.
And they show up with their guitar and they've been practicing for 6 months. And so now they can actually play beautifully, right? Or you have another individual who shows up, plays piano, and no one's ever given his music 5 minutes. And then we give them 30 minutes to just perform
Mm,
and offer an audience and an audience reaction. It's just beautiful to give
mhm,
people that, and then we interview them after and then we listen to their voice and hear it from their point of view on what art is.
mm,
And it just, there's so many levels and such capacity and value in that program. It's
mm,
just beautiful. It's really just beautiful to be a part. So that's kind of an example of some of the partnerships that we have. Like, I'm not really a salesman, right? That's not my background. I'm not really into that. It's about connecting and aligning with people who want to do the work, who are maybe passionate or maybe has a music brain like mine, right?
yeah.
Can't turn the music off.
Yeah.
And so it's really about partnering with people in that way. Yeah.
I love that. And it reminds me of what we used to call, I don't know what the term is these days, outsider art or art brut, right? And in this concept of like demographics of people who they're not in the professional trained, they're not in the classic artist space, right? And so they feel like their art doesn't count as art, right? But it
Yeah.
does. It counts as a specific type of art. Do you want to explain more about what I'm talking about to some of our listeners who aren't aware of it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's yeah, you're talking about judgment is basically
Right.
a judgment of the creative product,
Yeah.
right? Which can bring a lot of issues, especially in the work that we do in expressive arts because it's about removing judgment.
Hmm.
But yeah, so how do you do that? Like, right? So a lot of times in all of our work, it always comes up where people will say, "Hey, I'm not creative," and
Huh.
essentially what they're saying is that I'm not musical and I'm not, artistic. I'm the least creative person that you'll ever see. That's what a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
people will say. But understanding that creativity just means it brings something new and innovative and
Hmm.
meaningful, right? By nature, if it's meaningful and new, it is creative. And so when people understand that, then it starts to, help people, kind of lean into, okay, maybe I can be creative,
Hmm.
right? But then even back to the point of judgment, like, everybody wants, and this is also, artists are guilty of this as well. Like, we'll judge this is good or bad, and like
Absolutely.
this music sucks, or,
Yeah.
this is great.
I'm a
And
such and
quality
such
does
snob.
matter
Yeah.
when we talk about
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
quality does matter when we talk about pocket, but the question then becomes
Mm-hmm.
is do like who deserves music? Who deserves to be able to enjoy
Mm-hmm.
music?
Right.
Right? And the
And
answer
everyone
is
starts from
everybody.
somewhere, right? Not everybody's a 3-year-old prodigy
Everybody
who picked up
deserves
the
it.
guitar. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I love
Right,
that.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and one of the beautiful things about back to this thing of time consciousness, you'll love
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
One of the beautiful thing about being in the pocket is we never know how long it's going to last.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if that's saying that if it can only last like if it maybe lasts 2 minutes from 2 minutes to 2 hours, but we then our goal with kids who are individuals who maybe don't have enough, it's like, okay, let's try to see if we can get a moment of 2 minutes of
Yeah.
really being in it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, especially if that moment produces happiness, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
2 minutes of happiness with music. Now, so then you remove quality. You remove quality in that
Okay.
way and
Right.
invite people into to just be able to seek that out. And so then that becomes the goal. It's like professional musicians can't have to be able to perform for 4 hours and keep you in that space.
Yeah.
But,
And that's a different lesson, right? Have you
100%.
found, yeah, I'm sorry if I'm interrupting your
Yeah, no,
flow of thought
you
here.
got it.
Have you found that when you introduce that, like take away that pressure for quality, let the experience happen, have you found in your experience that more often than not that helps to improve the quality later?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely, because that's how you practice,
yeah.
right? But if you can't, because practice builds quality over time.
Of course,
But
right?
if
Yeah.
people are nervous in a room full of people, then they won't even take the first step. It's like,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm gonna let
Yeah.
somebody else go first,
Yeah.
and then they're worried about judgment and
Yep.
quality,
Mm-hmm.
But when we remove that barrier, say, hey, listen, just pretend for a minute and just
Yeah.
close your eyes and feel it. And
Yeah.
when we do that, when you give people permission,
Mhm.
it you can see it in their body. You can see the stress just kind of leave. Like it's like, "Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Well, if it's gonna
Yeah.
be a little funny and a little fun, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
You're not gonna
Right.
judge me, so I'll go ahead and dance.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll go
Yeah.
ahead and play some music.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
giving the permission, but then the question then becomes, when do you give permission to yourself to move
Hmm.
and to lean in,
That's a good question.
especially if it's something that you want to do? What's
Yeah.
holding you back?
Oh my gosh. So I feel like that's a great question for our listeners and viewers. When do you, see, I'm writing it down again. Give
Yeah.
yourself permission. Can you finish that again? Permission
Yeah.
to.
When do you give yourself permission to lean in?
Hmm. To your own creativity, right? So that's
There it
really what you're
is.
saying. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's such a great question. And so I really, if you're listening to this show and you're not a musician or a writer or an artist, you don't consider yourself that, but maybe you love to bake or you
Yeah.
like to do crafts or
Yeah.
you love to arrange even just like games with friends at events, right? You're like, I'm the one
Yep.
who's going to do the trivia or whatever, right? Like
Yep.
this is all a type of creation. And so, we can really be down on ourselves to be like, that's nothing, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
But
It's not a
that's not
big
what Dr.
deal.
Jeff
Not
is
that
telling
good.
us. Yeah, that's not a big
Yeah.
deal, right? And so when do you give yourself permission to lean in and go crazy with having fun with the experience? And where can you do that this coming week? Cool.
Absolutely. That is the turning point. That's where things change, right? When you unlock this, like, no, I have the power to own this part of myself. You know, I've been painting for 20 years. I haven't showed anyone.
Yeah.
It's terrible, but it's something that I can't stop doing. right? And so then maybe it's not about the product, right? Which I don't believe that it ever is.
Mm,
It's the creative process. That's where all the beauty lives anyway, right? That's where the information that we can use lives because that's the most connection that we have to our feelings in that moment, is the
mm-hmm.
creative process. So,
Yeah, and you've really shared with us too, like how it's a balance and a confluence of like kind of adjusting the equalizer knobs, right? Of for all of our sound people out there and our our amp
mhm,
workers, right? Like it's that it's adjusting the equalizer knobs of the pressure and the tension, right? Like
yes.
we want to create that good product, but if we're so
Mhm.
hyper focused on the end result, we're killing the creativity and we're not in flow with it anymore, right? I've certainly lived that in writing.
So you just said a powerful
Yeah.
word. You said a
Okay.
good product.
Mm.
What is a good
Right.
product?
Exactly. Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
If that's our hyper
because
focus. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, because I was actually having this conversation with a 15-year-old, and it was around Leonardo da Vinci and his
Okay.
work, and this idea of good and bad. And what they explained to me is they said Da Vinci would be upset if they knew people were observing his art. It's like,
Mm.
really? It's like, yeah, he's colorblind. And he
Oh.
was kind of self-conscious about his work. It's like, are you kidding me? I didn't know this, you
Interesting.
know?
Yeah.
So this back to the question of what is good and what is bad. We could probably walk into MoMA in New York City and be like,
Yes.
one
What is that
belongs in
supposed to be?
here.
Yeah.
It looks like what they say. It looks
Right.
like a kid. My
Right.
kid could
Right.
do
Right. So
something
many
like
people
that,
do that,
right?
right? When they see, yeah. Hmm.
So then what is it saying then? What is good? Well, I believe that every person has a song or an expression that they want to share with the world. And so maybe in some of these masterpieces, again, what's a masterpiece, right? But in art, there's always the expression of another human who is displaying something. And so I think that's more important than arriving at good or bad.
I love that. That's so cool. Um, when I think about that equalizer, the buttons on that board too, right? We've got the tension of the performance piece too, right? Like some people are going to look at it, this idea. Like first we should create
So,
for I say should, but now I'm going to correct myself on that. First we can create for ourselves, right? And get into that like accessing the joy of it and the creative
yeah,
process and then the idea that someone else will share it or see it to get that flow state. I feel like what you've shared with us so far that that's even more helpful. I don't know if it has to be there. I don't know if you found that out. Is there like a, this is what we always want, right? We want to hack the system and find the perfect thing that we can do.
sure.
Is there a formula you have found? And if not, what does the data from your studies show about there not being or being a perfect formula?
To accessing the pocket.
Yeah.
So you would be surprised with what I'm going to say.
Okay.
And this is wisdom that was imparted on me from an elder.
Okay.
And you ready?
Yes.
So to the musician who wants to access being in the pocket. Ready? This is
Yeah.
gonna be good. The build up. No.
Okay. Yeah, I
No,
know.
what he said is he
Yeah.
said, be honest. Always be honest as an artist.
Ooh. Oh, that's good.
And I'm like, that's it?
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
it. But that
But
is
it, but
it.
it but it really but it really is
Because that
it
takes off the
because
filters. Sorry.
it removes everything. Like why? Like if you're because you say performance. A lot of times when performers will get in trying to perform like someone else's or perform and sing like someone else's voice, it's no. Be honest with who you
Mhm.
are and the song that you want to express, the art that you
Mhm.
want to express, the cookies that
Mhm.
you want to make. Like be honest about that. And if it comes from you, then you will access the pocket.
Mm.
You know,
Oh my
you will get
gosh.
there. You'll get there.
Okay, now I'm going to find this
Um,
clip so I can put it in the show notes. But someone sent to me a clip from the comedian Michael Jr., who does a lot of very very quirky, interesting, funny comedian, and he's really dialed into I think like performing at different church congregations, right? And he
yeah,
he does this thing where he's helping people kind of access. this connection, some of the stuff we've been talking about, right? And the clip that someone shared with me was not even of his stand-up comedy. It was, which he does, right? It was, he asked somebody randomly in the audience because he does a lot of crowd work, and he asked somebody in the audience something like, what do you like to do? And the guy was like, I like to sing. And he's like, sing something from us for us. And the guy was like, I don't know what to sing, right? It was, he's on the spot because suddenly, and the guy's like, come on, Amazing Grace. Everybody knows that one. So he sings it, right? And then he's like, oh, okay. Everybody gave him a little round of applause. And he's like, now, and he had him access a moment of like hurt and pain and crisis and was like, close your eyes and sing from that and sing Amazing Grace. And you can, I'm getting
Yeah.
goosebumps just remembering it. You can only
Yeah.
imagine how deep and resonant, and he kept his eyes closed and he just sang with
Yep.
honesty, right?
Yep.
Just what he
Yep.
felt. And it was a different singer and a different song. It was
Yeah.
amazing. He sang the whole thing and it was so good. And we were crying. I watched it with a group of
Yeah.
people because someone sent it to a group I was with and we were crying watching it.
Yeah.
Profound.
So
Yeah,
yeah, and that's really it. It's
that's
it's
it.
connecting to the soul, right? It's connecting to the soul of what you're singing about, you know. And I could think of many artists who have that ability where they're just so honest and almost to the point, almost to a fault, where they are like, kind of weird in different
Right, right,
ways.
right.
I know of an artist who his thing is he can't show up on time, right?
Okay.
It's a part of his art. It's a
Oh
part of his
my. And it drives
artistry.
everybody
He's one
crazy,
of
I'm
the
sure.
drives everyone nuts. But the
Yep.
moment he takes the stage,
Mm,
you get all of him,
okay.
you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, we can work out the like, no,
Yeah.
he missed the sound check. He's actually here. He's coming in, pushing his
Okay.
gear now. Here he comes. It's like, all right, everybody's here, we're
Yep.
waiting. And then it's like, whoa. So yeah, the honest part. I mean, now
Yeah.
there are some choices you got to make.
Yep.
How
Right.
important is your gift to you? Like,
Hmm.
how connected are to you? How committed are you to being honest in that way, and chasing it,
And being
answering the
honest, not
call?
perfect. Yeah. What were you saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
answering the call,
Answering
if
the
you will.
call. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay. We have about 9, 10 minutes left. So,
Okay.
is there anything else we haven't shared with the listeners and viewers of this episode that you would like to share with them about creativity, about Miyako and the conference, about anything?
So I think the biggest takeaway is that everyone has access to creativity, especially if you think of it as a tool, as a response tool to really help balance things,
Hmm.
to give you hope when it seems like there isn't any. Creativity can certainly provide that. And embrace it. Embrace music. Everybody deserves music. Everybody deserves creativity.
Hmm. Hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
that's pretty much
That's
that's the
it. That's the
biggest
main thing.
thing,
Like embrace it and know you have it. So this is where we haven't done this yet, but since we've got the space, I want to hear, like, can you give us some more examples? You started to talk about the student who, was told like to stop drumming, right? And I think probably every 9-year-old boy in America, right? And I go right to like
Yeah,
I have a son who's fresh
yeah,
from that, and also is like definitely a drummer. And I hear it like my dad in the 1950s, and there was someone I knew who was like my dad's peer who he himself also was a drummer at some point, and he said that the teachers at his small Catholic school, like they tied him to a chair to keep him from can you imagine? I know, right? And they thought they were doing him a service, right? And he's like, it was highly traumatizing, and also I don't blame them for doing what they knew to do, and they were trying to keep the classroom organized. And I found this wonderful little private forest school that I have the luxury of putting my little boy in and letting him go be his whole little Peter Pan self,
yep,
right? And
yep,
that's not the case for everybody. So, can you give us
absolutely.
some stories, right, of some things that you have witnessed and the ways you have worked with environments and helped people like this
Yeah.
thrive where they are? It's so needed.
Absolutely. So even to the letter of person centered, it's here and now focus. So
Yeah, good.
you mentioned meeting them right where they are. That's the way that I've kind of been trained, right?
Nice.
And the importance is really on that. But let's finish the story with the kid that I mentioned, right?
Mhm.
So parents were in a parent-teacher conference and they were like, "Oh my God, he's amazing. He is so kind. He's respectful. His academics, oh my God, he's killing it.
Huh.
He's just a standout kid." Except there's this one thing.
Mm.
It's like, really, what is it? I can't keep him from drumming. He's constantly drumming on the tables. So much so, I think you should have him evaluated. I know that, Ritalin and Adderall are like great drugs, and my kids use it, blah, blah, blah. And dad and mom knew right away that, like, no, our
Hmm.
kid is gifted, and there's no need for an intervention in this way to disrupt the pattern. We just need to, maybe talk with them and kind of maybe even find him another program. Fast forward, he's in a music school now.
Good. Yeah.
But when I heard this, I was like, "Oh my God, are you kidding me?"
Right.
Like it's horrible because the truth, and this is true. The truth about this kid is that as a drummer, he's a prodigy.
Mm.
The way that he plays, like how gifted he is in both hands, the rudiments and the
Mm.
timing,
Nice.
the different styles that he's able to play in time, out of time. Like he is, in fact, he's better than a lot of drummers that I know personally who are touring professional working drummers. He's
Wow.
still a kid. He's in high school now,
Yeah.
but he is more affluent and gifted in a lot of areas than most drummers. Variety of styles. So the takeaway is, or the thing that sticks out from that is like, wow, you know, what if this was missed? Like,
Yeah.
what if we don't recognize like, are we recognizing the gifts in
Yeah.
our kids? Are we supporting them, or are we recognizing or labeling it as something else? And and putting them in places where it's really to their detriment and not to their benefit. So this idea or thought of like a potential missed moment with this young man, like in one environment, if you set him up the right way, he'll flourish and
Hmm.
it'll greatly impact his life. But the opposite is also true too. If we miss those opportunities to see and meet people where they are,
Hmm.
because what was being observed as a disruptive behavioral issue was literally a gift that
Yeah.
not many people have,
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's yeah.
It's a good
So
story. And
that's
it's so good for, I think, for parents to hear too, right? Like,
Mhm.
how are you framing it? If this is innate to this kiddo, right? Like, how are you
Yeah,
framing it to yourself? And how can you find other groups of support to help reframe it as a positive and not just like as a um, patronizing idea that like we're all special, right? But as like for real accessing the talent that's there and the goals and the desires and the creative drive because it's a form of creative drive I hear you describing.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, just to double down on that.
Okay.
Whenever we have like whenever has a national spot, like whether it's Jimmy Kimmel or whatever, whenever it airs, I'll share it with you and I'll say, you remember the kid I was telling you about?
Oh my
Here he
gosh,
is.
yes.
Like, and I don't know when it'll
Yes.
happen, but it'll
Okay.
happen. And
You see
here's the
that in
thing with
him.
music
Love it.
and
Hmm.
quality. There are a few
Hmm.
people, and I know this because again, I'm immersed in experience. There are some people who come along in music that are so good where it's just a matter of time
Yeah.
before the whole world gets to hear them, right?
Yeah.
He's one of those kids.
And especially with that support, right? Because that's how
Yeah,
you know it is going to happen, right? And it'll
yeah,
happen in a more timely manner, right? Because
yeah,
that
absolutely.
support is it's also part of the equalizer board, right? Like you got to have some
Yeah,
of that, got to be able to practice and flourish. And oh man,
yeah,
thank you for this work. I feel like this is such good soul work. And actually, just in the few minutes we have left, I'm going to ask you if you are open to coming back and talking about this particular concept of this idea, right? Of of the creative expression and spirituality, right? And like very particular,
yeah.
right? Like very particularly like diving into like and this exact aspect of what if we could as a nation, like just start with where we are, like as a nation, right? Be
Yeah.
able to honor the artist in community as a as an important thriving part like what
Yeah.
would it help mental health issues that we have in the US, right? Like what I feel like you have an answer to that and I want to hear it, so I
So,
want you to come back and talk about it if you want to.
okay, okay. I was gonna say, well,
Yay.
as a matter of fact, no.
I
But yes,
know.
absolutely.
Good.
I would love to
Right?
anytime you want me back, I'll be back. We'll definitely talk about the
Perfect.
creative expression and spirituality, and how we and the roles that we play as individuals in society, for sure.
So cool. I cannot wait for that. This has, of course, been such a great, fun, productive, I think. I'm going to call it productive because it moves the needle
Yes.
forward in the human
Sure.
consciousness conversation with Dr. Jeff Mims of the Music and Expressive Arts Center of Oklahoma. I
You
finally got
got it.
it. It takes me a whole show.
You got
And
it.
Thank you for this. And they are having their very first conference coming up, Miyako Wellness. And I think you're getting pretty close to full up, and I think that probably just like a week after. But if people want to find out more about it, because I know it will be happening again, where can they go to learn more about the conference?
MiacoWellness.com. Miaco, MEACO, wellness.com. You can get all the information. You can find out, you can get more information about the speakers and kind of check their profiles and their publications. You can find out about the work that we're doing. You can connect with us, join the newsletter. Like everything
Yeah.
is there. MiacoWellness.com.
Perfect. Thank you. Listeners and viewers, I hope you check that out. And I hope you practice, as Dr. Jeff invited us all, right? Practice. Where can you lean into expressing your own creativity as honestly as possible, right? And honestly also means respectfully. I just want to say, I
Yes,
don't want people to
for
have
sure.
permission to keep it
For
real
sure.
in a wrong way, right? Like,
Right,
right.
right. Be
We can be
compassionate.
honest and wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you, thank
absolutely.
you, thank you. This has been so great. We will see you later, meditators.